Hey BridgeWater Church family, my name is Kay and we are so glad that you are with us today. We've got all kinds of ways that you can get involved around here, so check out this week's Bridgewater Buzz. Teens, the Bridge Student Ministry is going to have a blast this Saturday night and you're invited. Meet us at the Web at 7172 Cincinnati Dayton Road from 6:15 to 8:30 p.m. for all the laser tag and arcade game excitement. The cost is $20 and it includes a $10 video game card, 2 slices of pizza, unlimited soda, laser tag, and go-karts. Invite someone you want on your laser tag team and join us then. Oasis friends, on Tuesday, February the 14th. Yes, it's Valentine's Day. We will be hosting a little Valentine's party here at the church. Join us at 11:30 a.m. for pizza, popcorn, and a movie. We want to spend our Valentine's Day with people we love, and that means each of you. You can sign up in the lobby or let Pastor Kay know that you are coming at k@bwch.org. We've got a fun, simple outreach project coming up that we hope you can help with. This Easter season, we will be gathering items for Easter baskets for kids in need in our local schools. You can find a list of the types of items needed on the screen now, and all you need to do is pick up a few and drop them off at the designated spot in the lobby. We will be gathering items from Sunday, February 19th until Sunday, March 19th. Help us make this Easter extra special. Hey families, we've got a special event for you to get on your calendars. On Friday, February 24th, we will be having an all-church movie night here at the Cove at 6:30 p.m. Come on over for hot dogs, popcorn, and a movie that's fun for the whole family. We can't wait to spend an evening together. Have you heard the news? BridgeWater Church is officially debt-free. This is certainly reason to celebrate, and we are going to do just that. On Sunday, March 5th, we will be celebrating all that God has done and has planned for the future of this place. You are a part of that future and don't want to miss this special Sunday. Plan to join us for one service all together at 10 a.m. that morning. It is going to be a great day. Next Sunday, February 12th, is Super Bowl Sunday. All morning activities will be as scheduled, but there will be no evening activities. This impacts you if you are in a Sunday Night Live group or a student who comes to the Bridge. Football fans, enjoy the big game. We are so glad to be a part of this Bridgewater family and can't wait to connect with you. You can find us online at bwch.org or by following Bridgewater Church on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for joining us for worship today.
Greetings to the Bridgewater Church. We are Don, Carolyn Armstrong, and we are the regional coordinators here based in Chiang Mai, Thailand. We work all across Asia.
Things are finally opening up out here and we're able to travel without all the quarantines. So we thought we'd show you a little bit about where we've been the last couple months.
This is like Las Vegas.
Last October, had the opportunity to get into India for the first time since pre-pandemic. And it was a great opportunity to reconnect with our leaders in the Cuttack area, participated in the ordination of 9 new pastors, and I had a chance to reconnect with the girls at the shelter. A great time to do this and to be with them in this season.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
2 years in the Asia Pacific region, we come together as leaders and lay people for the Asia Pacific Leadership Conference. But we haven't been able to do that for the last 4 years. So this year, last week in October, we came together for this conference in Seoul, Korea. And it was absolutely wonderful to be together again face to face. And I guess fellowship is kind of what comes to mind when I think back on this. Yes, we had speakers, and yes, there was great times of worship, but watching the different groups form and break off and form different ones, and just the different connections being made, and people seeing each other again for the first time in several years, and talk about COVID and what's happened in their ministries, and it was just a really good time to be together and just celebrate that we all made it through.
So one of the projects that we started during COVID is the discussions about starting a church in the United Arab Emirates in the city-state of Dubai. This would be a joint project between the Asia-Pacific region and Europe and the Middle East. And so this last October, a number of us met, Nate Tapman from Europe, myself, some of our pastors, Andrew Gale from the office, to look at the possibilities of planting a church in this Muslim city-state in the middle of the Persian Gulf. I would ask that you would give us your prayers, keep this in your prayers as we continue to plan and to work towards establishing a church for the many people from our churches in these two regions that are living and working in Dubai.
Well, that's a little bit about where we've been over the last couple of months, and in fact, we're traveling again tomorrow. We just wanted to say thank you to all of you for partnering with us and supporting us the way that you do, that allows us to travel throughout Asia and do what we do.
And we'll be home again this next summer for meetings and the usual. Hoping to come by Hamilton, say hi, worship with you, and greet everybody in person. But until then, Happy New Year and Zawadi Ka.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to BridgeWater Church. I'm so excited for our family and friends to gather together, and I hope you've had a great week. And as we settle in for the next few minutes, I want to continue to talk about our series, Keep Knocking. At the beginning of every year, we believe it is important to lean into prayer. Prayer isn't just something we do. It's a relationship that we have with God. And in this week, I want to talk about what it means to pray persistently. Now, just think about that for a moment. When was the last time that you had a prayer request that you needed to lean into with persistence? You had to just continue praying even though it was such a struggle. You decided giving up was not an option. You know that I love stories, and there's been a story that has really played with my mind and heart. I've been captivated by it. It's about Dr. Billy Graham. Now, many of us know that his ministry was incredible. It was worldwide. God anointed him as probably the greatest evangelist of the last century. And I love the story when his ministry was just getting started. He was eating in a diner in New Jersey. Dr. Theodore Elsner came up to him. He was a pastor from Philadelphia. And he said, I was sitting here in the diner praying that I would meet Billy Graham. And then here you were. It was incredible. And he said, very shortly and to the point, Pastor Graham, I believe that you need to go on the radio. And I would encourage you to reach out to Fred Deinart and Walter Bennett. They were involved in Christian radio. Well, Dr. Graham said, "You know, Pastor, I'm too busy. I just am not able to do that at this time." He had no interest. Well, later on, he was in Michigan, and Pastor Graham was speaking and sharing there. Two well-dressed strangers came up to him and introduced themselves as Fred Deinart and Walter Bennett. They encouraged him to get started into radio. And he said no. He said, I just don't have any interest at this time. They let it go. Pastor Graham was then in Portland. And who showed up but Fred Deinart and Walter Bennett? Now Pastor Graham felt like he was being stalked. In fact, he was actually irritated. And when they approached him, he said, "Guys, I'm not willing to do any radio." And they said, "But Pastor Graham, we have been praying about this." He said, "The answer is no." He was almost offensive. And then he stopped and he paused and he said, "Unless God gives us $25,000, then I'm not going to do it." He said, God has to provide miraculously the $25,000. And they both laughed and they said, "Well, Pastor, we're on our way. We're leaving tonight for Chicago." Well, Pastor Graham that evening spoke to about 17,000 people. And God was starting to prepare his heart. And he told this story that I'm telling you to the crowd that night. And everyone laughed and chuckled. But after the service, people sought Pastor Graham out. Within minutes, people were burdened by this need for a radio ministry. And within minutes, Pastor Graham had 24 of the $25,000. He was stunned. As he was on his way back to the hotel, he thought, is this just a ploy from Satan? Is this just a temptation? I had laid a fleece out of $25,000. Of course, it was jokingly and sarcastically. But then when he got to the hotel, the desk clerk said, "Pastor Graham, I have 2 letters for you. They were postmarked 2 days before. And there were 2 men that said in 2 different envelopes, 'Pastor Graham, God's placed on our hearts that you need to do a radio ministry. We've been praying about it, and here is a check for $500. Each had sent a check for $500. The $25,000 had been raised. And Billy Graham was overwhelmed with emotion, and he began to cry. Well, of all things, who showed up minutes later but Fred Deinart and Walter Bennett? They said, "We had gone to the airport, but then something told us not to leave. And we came back, and Billy Graham told them the story. And that was the beginning of one of the greatest Christian radio series ever broadcast, called The Hour of Decision." Now, why do I tell you that story, church? Well, I'm telling it to you because today I want to talk about what it means to pray persistently. I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know what struggles you're going through. In fact, if you've really been praying about something, you're probably exhausted from asking God as you keep knocking to hear your prayer. But I want to give you 3 decisions today based on a very incredible parable that Jesus gives to us. This incredible story will prompt us to look at prayer perhaps differently than we ever have before. So let's get started. Let's go to Luke chapter 18 and let's look at verses 1 through 3. Then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. He said, "In a certain town, there was a judge who neither feared God nor cared what people thought. And there was a widow in that town who kept coming to him with the plea, "Grant me justice against my adversary." Now, I want to give you the first insight. I know you didn't get a lot of the story yet, but we have enough to make this decision. If we're going to keep knocking in prayer, we have to pray persistently and never lose heart. Let me say it again. Decision number one, pray persistently and never lose heart. This is an interesting story because what Jesus is doing is capturing a cultural understanding about the law. When someone was struggling, if you were Jewish, you might have the option to go and sit in a Jewish court that would have been made up of 3 Jewish magistrates or legal experts. But the story that Jesus is telling gives us a different side of things. This was a Roman government-controlled area. In his parable, Jesus plays on that, and he says, there is a judge, one judge. Well, that's an indication to his disciples that Jesus is talking about a Gentile judge. It was well known that if you needed help in this Roman government-controlled region, that you would have to possibly go to a Gentile judge who was corrupt, who quickly made decisions and didn't really care about the people that he was trying or supposed to be serving. Well, what Jesus says is that there's a widow. There is a widow who has no fighting chance against what is called an adversary. She has an adversary. The literal Greek translation of the word adversary is opponent or arch enemy. Now, I'm just going to grease the wheel a little bit here, and I want you to also realize for now that an alternative meaning to this word adversary is a meaning of Satan himself. We'll get back to that in a minute. But for the time being, what Jesus is saying to the disciples, I'm telling you a story about a widow who has an arch enemy, an adversary, and her only hope of getting any relief is to go to a Gentile judge who is probably corrupt. Now, Jesus paints this beautiful contrast in such a way that he says to his disciples, and he's saying to us, never forget this. When everything looks hopeless, Jesus said to his disciples, always pray and never give up. Now just stop a minute. Let's take a moment to let this breathe. Jesus is telling a story to his disciples about prayer where there is a widow who has no hope of getting any help or justice because of a corrupt Gentile judge. And then Jesus abruptly stops and says to his disciples, never stop praying. Never give up, no matter how difficult the circumstances may be. Immediately I thought of this great insight from Oswald Chambers. He once wrote, we have to pray with our eyes on God, not on our difficulties. Friends, that is hard. That is a difficult thing to do. How do we pray in such a way that the harder it becomes in our lives, the forces of life that are coming against us, fear and negativity, and maybe what other people are saying or what other people are doing, there's this temptation just to shut down. There's a temptation just to give up. But Jesus says, in those moments, keep knocking, pray persistently, and realize this, don't lose heart. Never lose heart. The phrase, never lose heart, actually is a picture of a person who's prayed to the point of utter exhaustion. I would never tell you that I'm a person who has prayed to the point where I have been literally, physically, emotionally spent. But I've been close at times. I can remember where I have prayed through difficulties in ministry. I can recall in my mind family problems and issues where even when I was upset, exhausted, angry, sad, every emotion you can imagine, that's in those moments where when I didn't want to pray, when it was a struggle to pray, I remembered this parable, this story from Jesus, and he says, pray, don't lose heart, put your faith in God, and when the heat is so hot, when the struggle is about to overwhelm, pray and keep on praying. Don't lose heart. Well, that's only one decision. Here's the second decision found in, as this story continues in Luke 18, 4 through 5. For some time he refused. Now we're talking about the judge. But finally he said to himself, even though I don't fear God or care what people think, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will see that she gets justice, so that she won't eventually come and attack me. I love this part of the parable. Here's our next decision. Pray persistently and keep knocking. Now, when I look at this, I realize that this is a decision that I think is difficult because there are situations, there are problems that we encounter that we're just not sure what to do about. And that's why I really am taken by this next part of the story. Jesus tells us that the judge is godless. The judge is godless. He doesn't even believe that in any higher power, and I don't think he really believes in helping people. It's just a job to him. But then Jesus tells us this. It's a stark admission of the judge. Yet because the widow keeps bothering me, I will see that she gets justice, so she won't eventually come and attack me. When I read this, I think about how relentless my own kids could be when they were younger. I remember when we all went outside to rake leaves. My oldest daughter, she just did not enjoy outside chores. And we're raking leaves, and we hadn't been raking them long, and she said, Dad, I'm tired. Dad, I need a snack. And I said, we're here to rake leaves. Then she says, Dad, a few minutes later, she goes, how long have I been doing this? Dad, can I stop? And then she just had gone on and on for so long. What really broke me was when she said, Dad, can I go to the mall? She was relentless. I sent her into her mom. I was done. Well, that's exactly what's happening in this story. If we dig deeper, we discover that the literal translation of the phrase, bothering me, means to blacken someone's face. Our closest translation is to blacken someone's eye. Now, what the judge was saying, if I let this woman continue the way that she is, my reputation will be blackened. But there's even a hint that if she continues, I might end up with a black eye. She's so intent on getting justice. Here's our second insight. I'm taking it right from the title of the message today. Pray persistently, and here's our series, here's the focus, keep knocking. The word persistent means continuing firmly or obstinately in a course of action in spite of difficulty or opposition, continuing to exist or endure over a prolonged period. When was the last time you and I kept knocking and made the decision that we were going to be persistent in prayer, and no matter how hard things got, we kept praying? In fact, the harder things got, we prayed even more. That's not human nature. That's not really what would come to mind. In fact, often when we feel exhausted, when we're overwhelmed, we want to go do something mindless. We dive into TV or binge watch some kind of cable show. But when things are strenuous, when there are difficulties and problems, Jesus is stopping all of us and saying, I'm real. I'm real. I need you to pray persistently and never lose heart, but I need you to make the decision to pray persistently and keep knocking. It's reminiscent of Luke chapter 11, to ask, to seek, and to knock. Bold, audacious knocking. Now, why would we have to do that? What is going on? Is God like the Gentile judge? He doesn't love us. He doesn't care about us? No. Jesus isn't doing a comparison of the two. Jesus is saying, listen, God is so much different than the Gentile judge that the more persistent we are, the more our faith in God grows. And God is ordering our steps to give us the answer to prayer at the right time. And that leads to the conclusion of this story. And if you and I look at Luke 18, let's look at verses 6 through 8. And the Lord said, listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones, who cry out to him day and night? Will he keep putting them off? I tell you, he will see that they get justice, and quickly. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth? Here's our third decision. Pray persistently and cry out faithfully. Do you remember the phrase we used a few weeks ago? The question, how much more? So much more. Let's do that together. What's the question? How much more? What's the answer? So much more. When you and I pray persistently and cry out faithfully, God isn't going to give us less. God is going to bless us with more. In fact, let me talk to you for a minute about the power of persistent prayer. It's up to us individually and collectively to pray persistently and cry out faithfully, no matter what circumstances we encounter. We must wait and trust God to answer. Then we must be willing to trust God with the answer He gives. When you and I pray persistently and faithfully, we have to keep crying out, not knowing what will happen. Then, as we pray, our faith ignites and starts to grow. In fact, sometimes the more difficult it is, the harder it is to pray, the greater our faith. And then God gives an answer. And when He does, He's asking us to trust Him. God is listening to His children pray. But I promised you a few minutes ago that I would come back to this word adversary, this arch enemy that the woman encountered. There was an alternate meaning. The meaning was Satan. That Satan comes against us. I believe Satan is real. I hope you do too. Look around in our world and you'll obviously see evil abound. And if we were to turn to 1 Peter, the Apostle Peter wrote in a letter, in chapter 5, verses 8 and 9, he said this, "Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world." Isn't that a powerful verse? It's realistic. It's honest. Peter says, never forget that you are being stalked by the devil. He prowls around us like a roaring lion. He wants to spiritually devour us. And that's why we need to realize what Jesus is saying. Jesus is telling us, pray persistently and cry out faithfully. Why? Because prayer is a protection. Prayer is something that we need to protect us and not just answer prayers for the things we're asking and to be in this incredible relationship with God. But listen to this insight. Prayer also protects us from things we'll never know about until we're in the presence of God in heaven. Pray persistently. Don't give up. Cry out faithfully. And realize that even though the enemy is against us, God is for us. I'm asking this of you this morning. I'm asking you to keep knocking. I'm asking you to pray persistently. Listen, I don't know what you're going through, what struggles that you're having, but I want you to see this as a declaration of faith. Just like the widow who thought she was going to get no justice, it didn't keep her from going back to the Gentile judge and saying to this judge over and over again, I deserve justice from and against the arch enemy that is making my life so miserable. Jesus said that parable, that story helps us understand prayer. The enemy is Satan. The world is against us, but God is for us. And if God is for us, who can be against us? And that's why prayer is an avenue of communication that puts us directly into the throne room of God. Now this morning, I just want to ask you, what do you need God to hear? What prayer are you crying out? What are you in need of God to do in your life? And can I ask this? What is God wanting to do in our lives? What strongholds is He wanting to tear down? Prayer isn't a one-way street where we get what we want. Prayer is a relationship, a partnership with God. And I want to challenge you right now. In fact, will you do this no matter where you are? If you're at home, just bow your head. If you're in your car and you're listening on the podcast, just pull over to the side of the road. I don't know where you're listening to this message, but God is ready to move in a powerful way. Right now, with every head bowed, I want you to put your hands out front, cupped, ready to receive what God has to offer. And I want you to put in your hands those prayer requests that seem to be so difficult, there are no answers anywhere for us but in the throne room of heaven. And right now, I'm going to pray with persistence. Dear Jesus, we're knocking on the door. Dear Jesus, we are coming. You are at the right hand of God the Father interceding for us, your brothers and sisters who have put our faith in you, Jesus. There are struggles with families, jobs, friends, health issues. There are people full of fear and concern, those that are exhausted and overwhelmed, people that are searching for you, God. And right now, I pray with persistence. I'm beating on the doors of heaven with this family. Hear us, O God. Answer prayer. Do in us what we cannot do ourselves. Do through us what we need to see done in others. Show us your way, and where we're tired and we're ready to give up, help us to be reminded of the widow that you haven't given up on us. You're still waiting. Our faith is growing. There is joy There is going to be weeping perhaps in the night, but joy is coming in the morning when prayer is answered. Oh God, right now we hear you. We long for you. And God, we ask that you answer us. And we will celebrate and give you all the praise. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, listen, I love you. This has been a powerful story and a powerful message. Reach out to Pastor Liz. Let our online pastor know that you heard the message. Maybe you want to reach out and say, will you pray with me, and then put a word or two. We'll pray with you if you'll do it. Come on, online family, reach out. Let's flood the internet with our prayer requests, and let's ask God to help us. Let's keep knocking together. And until we see each other again, take heart and be transformed.
Here I am, down on my knees again, surrendering all, surrendering all. Find
Hey BridgeWater Church family, my name is Kay and we are so glad that you are with us today. We've got all kinds of ways that you can get involved around here, so check out this week's Bridgewater Buzz. Teens, the Bridge Student Ministry is going to have a blast this Saturday night and you're invited. Meet us at the Web at 7172 Cincinnati Dayton Road from 6:15 to 8:30 p.m. for all the laser tag and arcade game excitement. The cost is $20 and it includes a $10 video game card, 2 slices of pizza, unlimited soda, laser tag, and go-karts. Invite someone you want on your laser tag team and join us then. Oasis friends, on Tuesday, February the 14th. Yes, it's Valentine's Day. We will be hosting a little Valentine's party here at the church. Join us at 11:30 a.m. for pizza, popcorn, and a movie. We want to spend our Valentine's Day with people we love, and that means each of you. You can sign up in the lobby or let Pastor Kay know that you are coming at k@bwch.org. We've got a fun, simple outreach project coming up that we hope you can help with. This Easter season, we will be gathering items for Easter baskets for kids in need in our local schools. You can find a list of the types of items needed on the screen now, and all you need to do is pick up a few and drop them off at the designated spot in the lobby. We will be gathering items from Sunday, February 19th until Sunday, March 19th. Help us make this Easter extra special. Hey families, we've got a special event for you to get on your calendars. On Friday, February 24th, we will be having an all-church movie night here at the Cove at 6:30 p.m. Come on over for hot dogs, popcorn, and a movie that's fun for the whole family. We can't wait to spend an evening together. Have you heard the news? BridgeWater Church is officially debt-free. This is certainly reason to celebrate, and we are going to do just that. On Sunday, March 5th, we will be celebrating all that God has done and has planned for the future of this place. You are a part of that future and don't want to miss this special Sunday. Plan to join us for one service all together at 10 a.m. that morning. It is going to be a great day. Next Sunday, February 12th, is Super Bowl Sunday. All morning activities will be as scheduled, but there will be no evening activities. This impacts you if you are in a Sunday night life group or a student who comes to the Bridge. Football fans, enjoy the big game. We are so glad to be a part of this Bridgewater family and can't wait to connect with you. You can find us online at bwch.org or by following Bridgewater Church on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for joining us for worship today.